Dear students, this is course number 412 and I'm Dr. Jeihan Anwar. We have dealt so far with how to write a paragraph and how to write an essay. The essay that I taught you so far is called or entitled the expository essay. It exposes or makes clear a certain point or a certain idea or topic. We have other types of essay or what we call discourse treatments. We have other discourse treatments. We have the expository that I've taught you so far, how to write an essay. This is an expository essay that I taught you. You have the narrative essay in which we narrate things and we will take it together now, just now. We have the argumentative essay in which we argue about a topic. We discuss a topic and see a point of view and another opposite point of view. And also we have the other kinds of discourse treatments as well. Now, let's deal with the first discourse or the second discourse treatment. Since we've dealt with the expository before, let's deal with the second discourse treatment, which is the argumentative one. Now, the argumentative essay, how to write the argumentative essay. What is meant by argument? Argument means that some people are discussing a certain issue, as when you stay at home with your parents and you argue about something. Some of you want to go to travel somewhere and others don't want to travel somewhere. Some believe that smoking is good, others believe that smoking is bad. So this is a kind of argument. One point of view and another point of view is presented as well. Now, an argumentative essay is an essay in which you agree or disagree with an issue. Now, there are different ways of writing an argumentative essay. One of these ways is to present the other point of view and then to come back or present your own point of view. You have in this kind of essay or the argumentative essay, you can just mention the point of view of two different groups of people and then you mention your own point of view. Okay, so I have to learn from this essay if you agree or disagree with this issue. You agree or disagree with it. And you have to state the reasons. Why do you agree or why do you disagree? And when you state or mention these reasons, you have to support them. I said before, support means give evidence, give proof. That is to say, you can give examples, quotations, explain more. You can give statistics. Don't forget that your goal, do you know the meaning of goal? Your target, your goal, your aim is to convince your reader that your opinion is right. And this is very important. You have to try to convince the reader that you are on the right side. Now, the argumentative essay should discuss the other side's reasons, rebut them, which means to refuse them, to say that they are wrong, and then present your own reasons supported with solid evidence. This is the argumentative essay in general. But in this course, you are going to take the argumentative essay in its simplest form, a very simple form for the argumentative essay. In this form, you're not going to deal with the other side's reasons in details, and you are not going to rebut them as well. You are going to just mention the other side's point of view and then give your own point of view and give your own reasons and support your own reasons. But you are not going to explain in details the other side's reasons or rebut them to make things simpler for you. Now let's look at the introduction. How to write an introduction of an argumentative essay. In the introduction, you explain the issue. You say, what is the problem? Why is there a discussion about this point? And you have to present the other's point of view without explanation. You just mention the other side's point of view. By the end of the introduction, you have to write a clear thesis statement, as usual, in which you state clearly which side you are for. Which side you are for. Are you for this point or are you against it? Are you with those who are against it or are you with those who are for it? This is concerning the introduction. So if I'm going to talk, for instance, about smoking, what can I say? I can say that smoking in public places is a controversial issue. It's a topic of argument or discussion. Some people believe that smoking in public places must be banned, must be forbidden, must not be allowed. Other people believe that it must be allowed, it mustn't be forbidden, because it's one's right to do whatever he wants to do, wherever he is. And then you end up your introduction. This is the introduction that I'm just reading. Now, at the end of the introduction, you just write the thesis statement saying that I'm for or I'm with those who believe that smoking should be banned in public places. So the last sentence should tell us clearly where do you stand. And then comes the body. As I said before, the body usually consists of 3 paragraphs. In the body, you present the points of your argument, usually 3 points. 3 reasons. Why are you for? If you are for smoking in public places, just give me 3 reasons, each reason in a paragraph. If you are against smoking in public places, give me 3 reasons and each reason in a paragraph. As I said, each should be presented in a paragraph with a clear topic sentence. So in that case, I will say, for instance, the first reason for being against smoking in public places is, and I just go on mentioning the reason. And then throughout the paragraph, I explain why do I believe so, and I support, as usual, I support my arguments. And in paragraph 2, I just say the second reason is, and I mention it, this is the topic sentence, and I go on explaining throughout the paragraph. Then comes the last paragraph, which is the conclusion. Again, the conclusion is similar to the conclusion of any other essay. You can sum up, as I've taught you. You can give your opinion. You can give advice. You can make suggestions or make predictions. It is up to you. Let's look at the model together. The model here deals with the benefits of television. The benefits of television, not the drawbacks of television, not the disadvantages of watching television. It is the benefits, the good things about television. How can we start our introduction? Of course, instead of this dot, you have to leave a space at the very beginning. And you have to mention the other point of view. What is the problem? Why are people discussing this issue? What do people believe about television? We hear a lot about the negative effects of television on the viewer. Obviously, television can be harmful if it is watched constantly to the exclusion of our other activities. It would be just as harmful to listen to CDs all the time or to eat constantly. So some people believe that there are many negative effects for watching TV. But I'm going to write this essay, or if I'm the writer of this essay, I have to mention by the end of the introduction that although it has some disadvantages, I believe it is not that harmful. And this is what our writer says. He writes in the last sentence in the introduction, which is the thesis statement, he presents his own point of view. However, when television is watched in moderation, it is extremely valuable. Why is it valuable? Why is it good? What are the benefits of watching TV, according to the writer? It helps one to relax. It is important for relaxation. It is important for entertainment. And it is important for education. So in my introduction, what did I do? I just mentioned the other point of view, that some people believe or are against watching TV because it is harmful. Maybe it is harmful for one's eyes, for one's back, and for many other things. But I mentioned at the end of the introduction that I believe, unlike those people, I believe that Television, if watched in moderation, is extremely valuable. I tell my reader that I disagree with this point of view. I'm going to talk about the value of the television. Why do I believe that television is of benefit, is valuable? And the writer mentions in the thesis statement 3 reasons, which are, as I said, relaxation, entertainment, and education. So, as I said before, that means that he's going to write the first paragraph about relaxation in order, and then entertainment in the second paragraph, and then education in the third paragraph. It is not acceptable if you write about education in paragraph 1, relaxation, for instance, in paragraph 2. You have to follow the order that is mentioned in front of you in the thesis statement. And then comes the first paragraph. I will leave a space at the beginning of the paragraph. Instead of this dot, leave a space. And I will write my topic sentence as usual. First of all, watching TV has the value of sheer relaxation. Forget about sheer. Watching TV makes one relaxes. Okay, or makes one relaxed. And you go on saying, why do you believe so? Watching television can be soothing and restful after an 8-hour day of pressure, challenges, or concentration. After working hard all day, people look forward to a new episode of a favorite show, and so on. You go on explaining why do you believe that television can be a means of relaxation, a way to relax, throughout your paragraph. Okay? And you can give examples of things that you watch on TV that can be of value to you, that can cause you to relax. And you can give examples as you see in front of you. One doctor, for example, advises his patients with high blood pressure to relax in the evening with a few hours of television. You have to support your own point of view. You have to explain and give examples. And then we will turn to paragraph 2, the same. We leave a space and write another topic sentence, which is, in addition to being relaxing, television is entertaining. And we go on explaining, and then comes paragraph 3. Most important, television is educational. And you go on showing how can television be educational, can be of use to children and science or scientific researches and so on. And you can give examples such as Sesame Street, Alam Simpson, and how is it of benefit to children, and you can get even examples for others as well, adults as well. And then, after writing about this, perhaps because television is such a powerful force, we like to criticize it and search for its flaws. However, the benefits of television should not be ignored. Who can tell me what is this? This is yes, it is the conclusion. We just leave a space at the very beginning. Again, you have to leave a space here, and you go on writing your conclusion. And you just mention whatever you want to say. You can write your opinion. The benefits of television should not be ignored. We can use television to relax, to have fun, and to make ourselves smarter. To learn, that means to learn. And this electronic wonder then is a servant, not a master. So you are stating your opinion and summing up at the same time. This is how we write an argumentative essay. You have from the very beginning to see whether you are for something or against it. You have to mention this in the introduction, by the end of the introduction, and then you have to mention the 3 reasons, each reason in a separate paragraph, and to give examples and to defend your point of view. Then comes another form of essay. Now, another kind of essay is the narrative essay. A writer uses narrative. What is meant by narrative? Narrative comes from the word narration. Narration means to tell a story, to relate an event, to go on relating an event, as when you say, for instance, yesterday I went with my family to the zoo and we watched some animals there and we did so and so, and you go on explaining or relating events, telling a story if you can. This is called narration. You can tell a story, you can relate an event or a series of events. Usually you have to follow chronological order. This is the most important thing about the narrative essay. You have to follow chronological order. What is meant by chronological? Chronological means time order. So your essay have to follow chronological order, to be divided according to time, to follow a certain time order. The events may be fact or fiction, but the narrative essay that we are going to deal with in this course is the kind which is non-fictitious. We don't deal with the fiction. We have nothing to do with the fiction in this course. Fiction means to write a novel, to write a short story. I won't ask you to write a novel or a short story, not to narrate events in a novel or a short story. I would ask you to narrate events that really happened. The events that you're supposed to relate are supposed to be real ones. And the purpose is not the creative writing of literature. I'm not going to ask you to write literature, to write novels or short stories. You have to write or to relate an event that really happened. Sometimes you do that to present ideas or to persuade people to take a certain course of action. Sometimes I relate an incident that happened to tell my reader that you have to take a step forward. You have to do something about this. Now, since the text is narrative, you are going to relate things or narrate things, the writer uses past tense because we said that we're going to deal with things that really happened in the past. So, of course, you have to use the past tense, the past perfect, the past continuous, and the past simple. But if the writer uses the present tense, he can use it to give comments, to comment on the event itself, to give his own opinion. And if he does that, this is not pure narrative. So in order to write pure narrative, you have to stick to the past tense. Don't include any comments using the present tense. Okay? Now let's see how we can write the introduction of a narrative essay. The following information may be included in the introduction. In the introduction of our essay, we can include some, not all, of these points. Subject identification. Yani, for instance, we can say, when did this happen? What is the event that happened? What is mentioned the accident, state the event. The reason for writing about this subject, again, is very important. If you are writing about this subject because it had an effect, if you write, for instance, about 9/11 and what happened there in America, you have to mention the reason for writing about this subject. You can say, because since then, America's relation with the Arabs and with the Muslims in particular has completely changed. The Americans started to treat Muslims in a different way since then. I can mention the special importance of the subject. Why is it important for you? You can say, for instance, I can never forget this day because it was extremely important to me. It changed my life completely. It represents a turning point in my life. I can give some background information about the subject, which means I can just mention where did this accident happen, or where did this event take place, when, if I know the time, who were there, how many people were there, what took place, where did it take place exactly. And you can end up your introduction giving a comment to arouse the interest of the reader, such as when I say, it was a day that can never be forgotten. It really affected my life greatly. So, for example, if we are asked to write a newspaper report on an accident, what can we do? We can identify a subject saying that this happened on the 31st of December, 1986. What happened? It was a shark attack. Okay, the shark attacked the people who were swimming, where the place itself was Sydney Harbour, where in Australia. So I can write all the necessary information about the subject. I can identify the subject in my introduction. Also in my introduction, I can give some background information, such as when I say, December is summertime in Australia. Water is warm. The weather attracts holiday makers and sharks as well. And I can end up my introduction commenting on this event to attract the reader's attention. Again, if we are asked another example, if you are asked to write about is the disastrous holiday, a disastrous holiday that you passed or that you spent, we can identify subject again. We can say the place of this where you took your holiday, the duration of the holiday, how long did it take you, 1 week, 2 days, or 2 months, whatever. You can give background information, who went, why was this place chosen, what mode of transport was used to reach it, who went with you, of course, and you can end up again commenting to attract readers' attention. Another example, if you are asked to write a biography about Kulthum, for instance, we can identify subject, who was she, what was her profession, and we can give background information about her, where did she come from, how many sisters and brothers does she have, and so on. I can again mention her special importance, why is she so famous. All this can be written in the introduction. So in the introduction of the narrative essay, I just identify the subject. I can give any background information about it. I can say why is it of special importance to me, and I can end up with a comment to attract the reader's attention. Let's, for instance, look at the model that is found later on. Let's look at the model. Describe an exciting day in your life. I'm a policewoman, and so there have been many exciting days in my life, because this profession is far from being calm and peaceful. However, one of the most exciting days occurred quite recently and involved the capture of a dangerous criminal who nearly killed me. Now I'm arousing the reader's curiosity. How did he kill her? The reader wants to read the whole essay to know how was he about to kill her. So this is how I can write my introduction, and I can end up with in a way which can be exciting, which can attract the reader's attention. Now we will go back to our essay. After writing this introduction, I will turn to the body paragraphs. Again, how can we write the body paragraphs? Body paragraphs. Narrative discourse is usually developed chronologically. That is to say, I am free to divide my essay as I wish or as I like. I can write 2 or 3 body paragraphs. It's up to me. It's not important at all to write a topic sentence for every paragraph in the narrative only. In the narrative discourse, it's not important to write a topic sentence for every paragraph. You have to go on narrating and narrating and narrating, but you have to stop at certain points to move from one paragraph to another. How can we do that? Once you have decided upon the order of the events, you should ask yourself if they need to be divided into logical groups which will form paragraphs. It is not always easy to decide where to make a paragraph break, where to end a paragraph and start another paragraph, when to make a paragraph break when you are narrating. And there are no actual rules for doing this. There are no rules. You can make paragraph breaks whenever you want. You can end a paragraph whenever you want. But there are certain guidelines for you here that you can follow. Now, see if there are any natural time breaks. For example, you can write paragraph 1 about childhood, paragraph 2 about adolescence, paragraph 3 about adulthood, paragraph 4 about old age. Or you can write paragraph 1 about spring, paragraph 2 about summer, and paragraph 3 autumn and winter. Or paragraph 1 about what happened on Monday, paragraph 2 on Wednesday, paragraph 3 Thursday, and so on. Or according to the years or according to the time of the day. Also, if there are any natural breaks in the events, we have to put that into consideration. For instance, if events occur in 3 places, so I will talk about the place number 1 in paragraph 1, place 2 in paragraph 2, and place 3 in paragraph 3. Okay? And then I'll go on dealing with the adverbial expressions of time. Here I gave you some, if you want to make some time references, you can use some of these adverbial expressions of time. I wrote them for you because they can be of great help, because some people don't know where or when to use in. Do we say in the morning or at the morning or on the morning? Do we say, for instance, in the middle or at the middle? Do we say, for instance, at 6 o'clock or in 6 o'clock? So I wrote at the weekend or in the weekend, at midnight or in midnight. So I wrote those for you, I got them for you, because if you have any problem in them, you can just read them and learn what prepositions can be used before words. Like Monday, I can use by Monday, by the end of the week, and so on. So those can be of great use to you. You have to refer to them if you have a problem in using time expressions or adverbial expressions of time. Now comes the conclusion of my essay. You can conclude a narrative essay by, how can we conclude it? By making a summary of the events, as usual, summing up, discuss the importance of the events, or write about the results of the events, or make predictions based upon the events, making suggestions or giving advice, reaching any conclusions from the events, making any comments on the impression the events made on you. So again, you can conclude the same way you concluded the argumentative essay, or you can just add your impression. How did you feel after this, after spending this day or passing through this experience? How did you feel? Make sure that the conclusion shouldn't include any narrative details. Don't add any details in the conclusion. And this is, as I said, the model essay. This is the introduction that I read. And the writer goes on writing. Initially, at first, the day started normally. After having reported in to the duty officer, I was assigned to the Dolphin Hotel, which means the place here, the place is mentioned, where a pickpocket was said to be operating, and this is what was going on there. And that person kept, the writer kept telling us what, or the person kept telling us what happened on that day. Till the very end of our essay, you can read it, it's very easy to read. And then he ends up the essay with a conclusion. Then comes our conclusion, here is it. It later transpired, it was made clear after that my captor, who had already killed at least 6 people, was a criminal wanted by the police in connection with several armed robberies. He had been hiding out in the hotel room, and on seeing my police uniform, had thought that I had come to arrest him. For as long as I live, I shall never forget that hotel room and the view from its window. The pickpocket, incidentally, was never apprehended. This is my comment on the event at the end of the essay. Another example or another model is a biography of William Shakespeare. Again, you can read it easily and you will find no problems in it. You are just narrating. The narrative essay is the simplest form of essay because we don't follow any rules, except we have to follow the chronological order only, and it's up to us to stop wherever we want, to end a paragraph wherever we want, and to start another one. That's one, and then I'll turn to talk about another kind of essay, which is the classification. The classification essay is one type of the expository essay. Do you remember the expository essay that we talked about at the very beginning? The essay in which I told you have to write the topic sentence, information, thesis statement, and then topic sentences for every paragraph. You go on explaining, and then the concluding paragraph. Classification is one form of this expository writing, one type. What about it? What is meant by classification? To classify. To classify means to divide things, to categorize things. Division and classification. So they are related, to divide things, to classify things. One way to deal with a complex subject is to break it down to its component elements. The division could be done in different ways, and writers use a certain standard of division or classification according to their purpose. I want to stop here on the standard of division. This is very important, and this is the mistake that most of the students do in the exam. When you divide children, for instance, I'm not supposed to divide children saying that some children are noisy, some children are quiet, and some children are short. So you cannot divide children into short children, quiet children, and noisy ones. You have to have the same standard of division, the same standard of division. So I have to say quiet students, noisy students, and moderate students or normal students. Or children. I can also divide other things. I have to use the same standard of division. I cannot say tall men, short men, and fat men. Okay, I have to follow short and tall, so I'm talking about the length. I'm not going to deal with the whether he was fat or not. So for instance, wars. The war, of course you know the war, I can classify it across time. I can write a paragraph about wars in the past, another paragraph about wars today, a third paragraph about wars as expected in the future. Or I can classify wars according to types. I can write about civil wars, national wars, or world wars. These are the types. Each one is to be dealt with in a separate paragraph. Also, words can also be classified according to purpose, okay, or according to weapons used in these words, and so on. For example, again, another example is if I want to classify friends. I can classify friends according to a certain measure or standard into real friends and fake friends. I can't say real friends and friends at school. No, real friends and fake friends. I can classify them into friends at school, friends at university, and friends at work. And you have to know that the introduction, body, and conclusion of the essay of classification are similar to those of the essay that is discussed earlier. The same introduction, the same body, the same conclusion of the essay that we dealt with at the very beginning after we explained the paragraph 4. Let's read this introduction. This is a model about Japanese characteristics. Everybody wonders at the miraculous progress achieved by the Japanese. Perhaps I can contribute to the answer by studying the Japanese personal traits. Summing up the experience of many years in Japan, I should say that there are at least 5 important Japanese characteristics which throw light on their success in the world, the modern world, which they didn't help to create. So he tells us, he talks about Japan and the progress in Japan, and he ends up his introduction saying that I'm going to talk about at least five important Japanese characteristics that is mentioned in the thesis statement, the last sentence of the introduction. Then he starts body paragraph 1 saying that the first is the sense of communion with nature. This is the first characteristic, and he goes on explaining in the paragraph. Then comes paragraph 2. The extraordinary manual skill is the second characteristic. This is the topic sentence of the paragraph. And then he goes on explaining and giving examples. The third characteristic is the traditional specialization of the classes, and so on until we reach the conclusion. These traits of character have probably been the basis of a great thrust towards a remarkable progress in many fields. Great nations with massive resources and more scientific and technological knowledge find it difficult to compete with the Japanese. And that's it. So these are the three types of essay that you are supposed to study very well and to try to practice writing, because you will have them in the exam. Mainly the argumentative essay, in which you argue about a topic, the narrative essay, in which you narrate an event, and the classification essay, in which you classify things into groups. Now, I will turn to the other part that will be included in the exam. In the exam, you will have a part dealing with essay writing. You will be asked to write an essay, and another part which will deal with the reading skills. In the exam, you can have a passage followed by some questions that you are supposed to answer. Some of these questions are as follows. What is the thesis or the point of view or the argument expressed by the writer? How does the writer develop his or her idea? Comment on the tone of the text. Comment on the style. Who is the intended audience? Following concepts can help answer the previous questions. How can you answer these questions? To answer these questions, you have to understand what is meant by thesis, how can a writer, the means or the methods used to develop one's ideas, what is meant by tone, what is meant by style as well. And you have to know something about the audience. Who can be the audience of this piece of writing? Okay, what about the thesis then? What is meant by the thesis? The thesis is the basic idea of an essay, usually stated in a single sentence. Sometimes you don't find the thesis written in front of you, but you understand it. You understand what the writer wants to tell us. What is the message of the writer? What is the point of view of the writer? What is the argument of the writer? What does the writer want to tell us? The argument, point of view, what does this person believe? What does he want to tell us? This is called the thesis. Okay? Now, we will turn to the tone. So, the thesis means the main idea, the point of view of the writer, the argument that he presents, what he wants to tell us. Then comes the tone. What is meant by the tone? The tone is the reflection of the writer's attitude towards subject and audience. How is the writer writing this essay? What about his tone in this essay? Which means his attitude. What is his attitude toward this subject and the audience? This tone can be personal. Personal means if he's using, of course it's misspelled, if he's using I or we, this is personal tone. He's talking about himself. Impersonal tone, if he is talking and he's about other people and he is not included in this piece of writing. We have an objective tone that you are not involved in. You are presenting things from the outside. You are an outsider. Subjective, which means that you are included in the whole thing. Yani we say personal and subjective in most of the cases. Impersonal and objective in other cases. Ironic. Ironic means to say the opposite of what you intend. Ironic, to say the opposite of what you intend. He wants to say something, but he says the opposite, and we have to guess. Sarcastic as well means to criticize someone using praise. You just make fun of somebody, you criticize him. This tone can be an angry tone, humorous, playful, cheerful, suspicious, threatening, expressing amusement. Skeptical means doubts, you can doubt things, and so on. Then comes the style. The style. The style means the level of language used. Is it formal? Is it formal style or informal style? How can we know? We can know from the sentence patterns. If we have phrases only, we don't have complete sentences, we have just part of sentences, this is informal. If we have complete sentences, this is formal. Again, the vocabulary items, the words used. Again, the use or non-use of contractions, as we will see now. And speaking directly to the reader. If you are speaking directly to the reader, this is informal. Okay, if you're not addressing the reader directly, this is formal. Some differences between the informal style and the formal style that can help you to identify them are as follows. In the informal style, we have excessive use of phrasal verbs. What is meant by phrasal verbs? Phrasal verbs mean verbs that consist of more than one word. They consist of two words, and they have a meaning on their own, such as stand for, pick up, or feel. But in the formal style, we have minimum use of phrasal verbs. We don't use these words. We choose other words instead. We choose one word to say, but instead of stand for, we use one word. Instead of pick up, we use one word. This is formal. But when we use phrasal verbs, verbs consisting of more than one word or a verb plus preposition after it, this is informal. Again, the informal style, number 2, the use of the pronouns I or me or you. If we use these pronouns, then we are informal. Instead, I can say one of the people, one believes, one thinks, it is believed, I can use it, I can say it is believed, or I can say some people think, then I'm formal. I can say it is supposed, but if I say I believe, I think, how you have to do, that means that you are using informal style. Info to create a sense of familiarity, of course. For example, I suppose that if you really like literature, you'll be better, or one will be a better person. If one really likes literature, instead of using instead of using I, you can use one. Instead of using I, you can use one. Instead of using you, again, you can use one. Informal style, when we use get, this is informal. Instead of using get, we can use have or become, because this is formal. Again, the use of contractions, such as isn't, aren't, doesn't, this is informal, but if the writer uses is not, does not, or are not, he is formal. And again, use of fragments. When I say, for example, money, this is informal. After the word for example, I have to write a whole sentence, a complete sentence. One of the needs is money. I have to write a subject and a verb to have a complete sentence. Then comes the point, which is the methods of development. The methods of development. How can the writer develop his ideas, his or her, of course, ideas? How can he develop his ideas or thesis? Some, not all, of course, of these methods are as follows. The writer can go on developing his ideas by giving reasons. In paragraph 1, he can give one reason. In paragraph 2, he can give another reason. And in paragraph 3, he can give a third reason. He can also develop his ideas through making comparison, comparing two things or contrasting two things together. Also, the writer can show cause and effect. He can show us the cause of something and its effect. This is how he develops his ideas or he develops his essay. The writer can develop his essay through giving examples or through narrating a story, or he can give proof or evidence or narrate facts, mention facts. Also, he can define. He can write a whole essay in which he can define, for instance, the word terrorism. And this is how he develops his ideas. Also, classification. He can classify things. Paragraph 1, the first kind of children. Paragraph 2, the second kind. And paragraph 3, the third one. He can analyze. You know the meaning of analyze. يحلل the whole issue. We have also chronological order. Paragraph 1, he can talk about the year 1980. Paragraph 2, 1985. Paragraph 3, 1990. So in that case, he's developing his ideas using chronological order or spatial order according to place, to space. Also, he can state disadvantages or advantages of something. These are some ways of developing one's argument. But of course, there are other ways according to each writer. Now we will turn to the audience. The audience is the group for whom a work is intended. For a writer, the audience is the reader, whom the writer desires to persuade, inform, or entertain. The writer must always put into consideration the level and needs of the audience for whom the writing is meant. For example, the text can be written for an unlettered audience, somebody who cannot read and write. In that case, I have to write this text in a certain way because I'm addressing people who cannot read and write, who cannot easily understand. Also, I can write my text for general reader. A general reader means any person, a common man. I can write my text addressing doctors. I can write it for men or women, or I can address people of authority, a minister or president. I can also address teachers or parents. So I have to put this in mind when I'm writing my text. And in the exam, I'll ask you to guess who the audience should be. Who is the writer writing this text for? You have to put this into consideration, read the text and see if he's addressing men, women, people of authority, general reader, or who else, because I have here etc. There are many other groups of people that he can be addressing. That's all, and you will find exercises on this part in both lectures and applications. You will find exercises on this, especially in lecture 4, and you will have answers following it. Now, this is how the exam will be. You will have a passage like this one, and it will be followed by some questions, and you will go on answering the questions, and then you will write an essay. Now, let's look quickly at this passage. I belong to that classification of people known as wives. I am a wife, and not altogether, incidentally, I am a mother. So she's a wife, the writer is a wife and a mother. See how she writes about this. Not too long ago, a male friend of mine appeared on the scene fresh from a recent divorce. He has been divorced, one of her friends, a male friend. And he's thinking or searching for another wife. And he wants somebody who can do the following, which is very difficult. She asked herself, the writer asked herself, why do I want a wife? Although the writer herself is a wife, but she's asking herself the question, why do I want a wife? This wife, the writer, needs a wife to help her. Why is she saying that? I would like to go back to school so that I can become economically independent, support myself. And she keeps saying, I want a wife who will work and send me to school. I want a wife, as you see, I want a wife to keep track of the children's doctor. I want a wife to make sure my children eat properly. I want a wife who will wash the children's clothes and keep them mended, and so on. Throughout the essay, she keeps saying, I want a wife who can do so and so, who can arrange and pay for the care of the children, and so on. And then she ends up, I want a wife who will have arranged that the children are fed, and I want a wife, and so on. Let's look at the end of this. My God, who wouldn't want a wife? This is Judy Cyphers. She's saying, I want a wife. What does she intend to say? What is the writer's argument? The writer here is saying that men treat women as servants. They expect women to do everything at home. How did the writer develop it? The writer kept enumerating the jobs of a wife. What the wife is supposed to be doing. The writer keeps enumerating, mentioning a lot of jobs of a wife, a lot of functions. What is the writer's definition of a wife? Someone who the writer believes that the wife is someone who cleans the house, takes care of the children. Of course, this is sarcasm. Who is the intended audience for this essay? And justify your answer. Of course, I believe that she is writing this essay for men, to tell them that women are not servants. They are to be treated with respect. Okay? Explain the sarcasm in this essay, the irony. I'd like to say that she herself is a wife, but she's not doing so. And that's why this is sarcastic or ironic. If you agree with the writer's argument, this is left to you. Write an essay on one of the following topics, and you will have a topic to choose only one and write your whole essay about it. And you will have the answers following the exam. This is the end of our revision, and I hope you will benefit from it. Just go on reading this lecture once and twice. Try to read it carefully and try to start writing. Practice writing. The more you practice, the better you become, because practice makes perfect. And I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you very much.